Max's V8 Interceptor from Mad Max wasn't originally black. The iconic Pursuit Special started life as a completely different color that George Miller hated. This Australian muscle car hid secrets that nearly destroyed the production. Why did the film crew build only 2 cars when stunts demanded more? How did a paint job done in someone's backyard become cinema history? And what made Ford Australia try to stop the film's release? These are 20 weird facts about the most famous car in Australian cinema. Number 20, the yellow ochre disaster. The V8 Interceptor didn't start as the menacing Black Beast audiences remember. The 1973 Ford Falcon X BGT Coupe originally wore Ford's factory color called yellow ochre, a mustard gold shade popular in Australian muscle cars during the early 70s. When production designer John Dowding acquired the car from a Melbourne used car lot for $8,000, it came in this original factory color. Director George Miller took one look at the yellow car and declared it completely wrong for the film's dark, dystopian aesthetic. The color screamed suburban family sedan, not post-apocalyptic pursuit vehicle. Miller wanted something sinister and aggressive that would photograph dramatically against the Australian outback's red dust. The production had zero budget for professional paintwork. Crew members volunteered to repaint the car themselves in a team member's backyard in Sydney. They chose flat black because it was cheapest and wouldn't reflect the harsh Australian sun during filming.
If you've been living under a rock for about 40 years, you'll recognise these cars. It's the MFP Pursuit.
The backyard paint job took 3 days, using standard automotive enamel applied with rollers and brushes rather than professional spray equipment. The result was rough, uneven, and absolutely perfect for the film's gritty aesthetic. That amateur black paint job became one of cinema's most iconic vehicle colors. Ford Australia later tried to distance themselves from the film, worried the dystopian setting would harm their brand image. They refused promotional tie-ins and requested their badges be removed from the car. Miller obliged, making the Interceptor feel even more like a custom outlaw machine rather than a factory Ford product. Number 19, the 2-car gambling problem. The production built only 2 Interceptors for the entire film, a decision that nearly proved catastrophic. Most action films create multiple identical vehicles for stunts, knowing cars will be destroyed or damaged during filming. Mad Max's microscopic budget of $350,000 couldn't afford that luxury. They purchased 2 1973 Ford Falcon X BGT coupes from used car dealers, both needing mechanical work. One became the hero car for close-ups and driving scenes with Mel Gibson. The other was designated for stunts and action sequences. This 2-car strategy worked until the stunt car suffered a serious crash during filming. The front suspension collapsed after a jump sequence went wrong, bending the frame and making the car undrivable. Production ground to a halt. Without a backup stunt car, they couldn't film any remaining action sequences. The hero car was too valuable to risk in stunts. Mechanics worked frantically for 3 days attempting repairs. They eventually welded steel plates to reinforce the damaged frame, a fix that worked but made the car handle terribly. The jury-rigged stunt car pulled noticeably to the left and required constant steering correction. Stunt drivers had to compensate during every scene, making their jobs significantly harder. The limited car situation forced creative solutions. Some planned stunts were abandoned entirely. Others were filmed using camera tricks to minimize risk. Wide shots showed both cars, but they were never together in the same frame, eliminating the need for a third vehicle. This constraint actually improved the film's tension. Every stunt carried real risk because they literally couldn't afford to destroy their only vehicles. Number 18, the supercharger that did nothing. That iconic Wagon supercharger protruding through the hood was completely non-functional. The blower was purely cosmetic, bolted to the intake manifold, but not connected to the engine's internals. It didn't compress air, it didn't boost power, it just sat there looking menacing. Production designer John Dowding purchased the Wagon blower from a speed shop for $450. Installing it required cutting a hole in the hood and fabricating custom mounting brackets. The blower connected to nothing, no belt drive, no intake plumbing, no functional components. It was essentially an expensive hood ornament. But it served a crucial purpose, the psychological warfare of intimidation. That massive supercharger screaming through the hood made the Interceptor look impossibly powerful, like it could tear the road apart. Audiences assumed the car was a monster because of that blower. The reality was more mundane. Under the hood sat a bone-stock Ford Cleveland 351 cubic inch V8, producing around 270 horsepower. Respectable for 1973, but nothing special. The engine was completely unmodified from factory specifications. No performance camshaft, no ported heads, no forged internals, standard carburetor, standard exhaust, standard everything. The car's actual performance was adequate for filming, but far from the supercar the blower suggested. Mel Gibson later admitted he could barely tell the difference between driving the Interceptor and a regular Falcon. The fake supercharger became so iconic that every replica built since includes a non-functional blower. Nobody wants the real story. They want the myth that blower created, the illusion of unlimited power captured in menacing chrome. Number 17. The stolen parts scandal. The Interceptor's side exhaust pipes were stolen from a junkyard without permission. Production designer John Dowding needed custom exhaust work but had no budget for fabrication. He visited a Sydney wrecking yard looking for usable parts and spotted perfect chrome side pipes on a demolished Holden. The yard was closed, but Dowding noticed the fence had a convenient gap. He returned after midnight with 2 crew members and bolt cutters. They removed the exhaust pipes and disappeared into the night. The theft worked perfectly until the film premiered in Melbourne. The junkyard owner recognized his pipes on screen and contacted police. Dowding had to negotiate a settlement, paying 3 times the part's actual value to avoid prosecution. The stolen pipes appear throughout the film, making every chase scene technically evidence of theft. George Miller found the situation hilarious, joking that true outlaw filmmaking required actual crimes. The pipes cost the production $1,200 in settlement fees, far more than buying them legally would have cost. Number 16. The tire pressure deception. The Interceptor's aggressive stance came from dangerously low tire pressure, not suspension modifications. Budget constraints prevented proper lowering work, so tire specialist Ray Beecham suggested a shortcut. He ran the rear tires at just 14 psi, about half the recommended pressure. This made the sidewalls bulge outward and dropped the rear end noticeably. The front tires ran at 18 psi, creating a raked stance that looked like expensive suspension work. Cinematographer David Egby loved how the squatting rear end photographed, making the car appear ready to pounce, but the low pressure created terrifying handling characteristics. The car wallowed through corners like a drunk sailor. Stunt driver Grant Page complained constantly about unpredictable behavior during chase scenes. Tires would flex sideways in turns, making the car's direction uncertain. High-speed stability was non-existent. The soft tires also wore out incredibly fast, according after just 2 days of filming. The production went through 11 complete tire sets, each costing $300 they couldn't afford. Number 15. The interior carpet scandal. The Interceptor's interior featured plush black carpet that wasn't automotive-grade material. The original factory carpet was worn and stained, looking terrible on camera. Replacement automotive carpet cost $800 the production didn't have. Costume designer Claire Griffin suggested using cheap household carpet instead. She purchased $40 worth of black shag carpet from a discount home goods store. Crew members cut and fitted it using contact adhesive, completing the installation in one afternoon. The household carpet looked fantastic on camera, but performed terribly in actual use. It absorbed moisture like a sponge, never drying completely in Australia's humidity. The carpet smelled increasingly musty as filming progressed. Mel Gibson complained about the odor during dialogue scenes. Worse, the cheap carpet shed constantly. Black fibers covered actors' costumes between takes. Costume department staff kept lint rollers on set for constant cleanup. The carpet also melted slightly where it contacted the hot transmission tunnel, creating permanent divots. Despite these problems, the $40 carpet appears in every interior shot, looking far more expensive than its humble discount store origins. Number 14. The fuel tank fire hazard. The Interceptor's fuel system was a legitimate safety nightmare that terrified insurance inspectors. The original Ford fuel tank sat in the standard location behind the rear axle, but production modifications compromised its integrity dangerously. When crew members cut the body for side exhaust installation, they accidentally pierced the fuel tank's protective shield. Nobody noticed until filming began. During the first high-speed chase, fuel started leaking from the damaged area. The leak went directly onto the hot exhaust pipes, creating visible fuel vapor trails. Stunt driver Grant Page smelled gasoline immediately and aborted the take. Inspection revealed the tank had been leaking throughout test drives, leaving a fuel trail across 20 miles of Australian highway. One spark would have incinerated the car with the driver inside. Mechanics patched the tank with fiberglass and epoxy, a temporary fix that held for exactly 3 more filming days before leaking resumed. The proper solution required removing the entire exhaust system and replacing the fuel tank. The production couldn't afford either the parts or the downtime. Instead, they limited filming to short takes, refueling constantly to keep the tank level low. They stationed fire extinguishers around every shot. A crew member's only job was watching for fuel leaks during takes. This rolling fire hazard completed filming without exploding, but everyone involved considered it a miracle. Modern safety regulations would have immediately grounded the vehicle. 1978 Australian film production operated under considerably more relaxed standards. Number 13, the dashboard delete disaster. The Interceptor's dashboard was gutted to install fictional pursuit equipment that never actually functioned. Production designer John Dowding removed the factory instrument cluster, radio, and climate controls. He installed an array of switches, gauges, and mysterious devices that looked like police pursuit technology. Every single component was non-functional. The switches controlled nothing. The gauges displayed random positions. The mysterious devices were painted wooden blocks. This created a massive problem for the actual driver. Removing the factory instruments meant no speedometer, no fuel gauge, no temperature warning, no oil pressure indicator. Drivers operated completely blind regarding the vehicle's mechanical condition. Stunt coordinator Grant Page had to estimate speed by engine sound and road feel. He ran out of fuel twice during filming because the deleted fuel gauge couldn't warn him. The engine overheated on 3 occasions, causing minor damage each time because the deleted temperature gauge provided no warning. Mechanics installed a tiny aftermarket speedometer hidden below the steering column where cameras couldn't see it. The gauge was so small that drivers needed reading glasses to see it clearly. The deleted dashboard looked fantastic on camera, suggesting advanced police technology. In reality, it made the car dangerous and unpredictable to operate. Every filming day risked mechanical failure that wouldn't be discovered until something catastrophic happened. The fake pursuit equipment cost $400 to fabricate. Repairing damage from operating without proper instruments cost over $3,000. Number 12, the window tint illegal modification. The Interceptor's windows received illegal tinting that caused constant problems with Australian police. The production wanted heavily tinted windows to hide stunt drivers and lighting equipment. They applied film rated at 5% light transmission, essentially mirror black. This level of tinting was illegal in New South Wales, where most filming occurred. Legal maximum was 35%. Police stopped the Interceptor 4 times during location scouting, issuing citations each time. The production ignored the tickets, considering them a cost of doing business. But police eventually impounded the hero car, threatening to hold it until tinting was removed. George Miller had to personally negotiate its release, promising the car wouldn't be driven on public roads again. This forced major script changes. Several planned chase sequences on public highways were relocated to private land or abandoned entirely. The stunt car kept its illegal tinting and continued being driven everywhere. Police issued 17 more citations throughout filming. The production accumulated over $4,000 in tinting-related fines. When Mad Max premiered, several police officers who'd ticketed the car attended screenings, laughing at seeing their citations immortalized in cinema history. The illegal tinting remains throughout the film, making every driving shot technically documentary evidence of multiple traffic violations. Those mirror black windows became iconic, inspiring thousands of Mad Max fans to illegally tint their own vehicles. Number 11. The wheel alignment impossible task. The Interceptor's front wheels could never be properly aligned due to bent frame rails from the earlier crash. Mechanics tried repeatedly to correct the alignment, but the twisted chassis made proper geometry impossible. The car perpetually pulled to the left, requiring constant steering correction. This wasn't subtle. Drivers needed significant force on the wheel just to maintain straight-line travel. Highway driving became exhausting as drivers fought the steering continuously. Stunt coordinator Grant Page developed chronic shoulder pain from wrestling the misaligned wheel during filming. The problem worsened as production continued. Additional stunts and rough driving further twisted the already damaged frame. By the final week of filming, the car pulled so severely that wide shots clearly show it traveling at an angle even on straight roads. Mechanics suggested replacing the entire front subframe, but the cost was prohibitive. They compromised by adjusting tire pressure side to side, running the left tire at higher pressure to compensate for the pull. This helped slightly, but created its own handling problems. The perpetually misaligned Interceptor appears in every scene, fighting its driver invisibly throughout the entire film. Number 10. The seats from a station wagon. The Interceptor's front seats weren't performance buckets from a muscle car. They came from a 1976 Ford Fairmont station wagon that production bought for $200 from a salvage yard. The original GT Falcon seats were torn and stained beyond repair. Racing seats cost thousands of dollars the budget couldn't accommodate. Someone noticed the station wagon's bench seat could be separated and adapted. Crew members cut the bench in half, creating two individual seats. They welded makeshift brackets to bolt them to the Falcon's floor. The seats were completely wrong for an aggressive pursuit vehicle. They offered minimal side support and were designed for grocery-getting comfort, not high-speed chases. Stunt drivers slid around constantly during action sequences, making already difficult stunts even more dangerous. Grant Page used duct tape to secure himself partially to the seat during particularly aggressive scenes. The station wagon seats also sat higher than the original buckets, raising driver head position. This required cutting additional clearance in the roof padding for taller drivers. Those family hauler seats appear throughout Mad Max, secretly borrowed from suburban grocery transportation. Number 9. The headlight wiring catastrophe. The Interceptor's headlights failed constantly due to amateur electrical work performed during the black paint conversion. When crew members painted the car in that backyard, they removed the headlight assemblies for better paint coverage. Reinstalling them, nobody properly sealed the wiring connections. Australian humidity caused constant corrosion in the exposed terminals. Headlights would work perfectly one moment, then completely fail the next. Night filming became a nightmare of constant electrical troubleshooting. Electricians resoldered connections before every night shoot. The repairs would last hours before failing again. One particularly frustrating night sequence required 8 separate electrical repairs across 4 hours of filming. The crew considered replacing the entire front wiring harness, but lacked both time and money. They compromised by coating every connection with dielectric grease and wrapping everything in multiple layers of electrical tape. This helped, but didn't solve the fundamental problem of poorly executed amateur electrical work. The headlights remained unreliable throughout production. Several night scenes show the Interceptor with headlights at different brightness levels because one or both were failing during filming. Eagle-eyed viewers can spot the flickering inconsistency in the final film. Number 8. The brake fade horror. The Interceptor's braking system was dangerously inadequate for the aggressive driving required. The factory brakes were designed for street driving, not repeated high-speed stops during filming. After 3 or 4 hard stops, the brakes would fade completely, pedal going to the floor with minimal stopping power. This terrified stunt drivers who needed reliable brakes for safety. The production tried upgrading to ventilated rotors and performance pads, but parts availability in rural Australia made this impossible. They compromised by installing brake cooling ducts, fabricated from dryer vents, purchased at a hardware store. These crude ducts directed air to the brake rotors, helping slightly with heat dissipation. Even with modifications, drivers had to manage brakes carefully. They learned to anticipate stops well in advance, using engine braking whenever possible. Several takes were ruined when drivers sailed past their marks, unable to stop in time. One particularly scary moment occurred when Grant Page couldn't stop for a T intersection during location filming. He steered into a ditch deliberately, choosing a controlled crash over hitting cross traffic. The brake fade problem appears invisibly throughout the film. Number 7. The transmission cooler leak. The automatic transmission's cooling system failed during the Outback filming, causing a crisis in the middle of nowhere. Transmission fluid began leaking from corroded cooler lines during a remote desert shoot. The nearest town was 80 kilometers away. Mechanics discovered the cooler lines had rusted through from exposure to road salt and Australian coastal air. With no replacement parts available, they attempted a field repair using radiator hose and hose clamps. The jury-rigged repair held for approximately 40 minutes before failing spectacularly, dumping all remaining transmission fluid onto the desert floor. The car was stranded with no way to tow it. Someone suggested using beer cans to fabricate new lines. Crew members drank their entire beer supply, then cut and formed aluminum cans into makeshift tubing. They brazed the cans together using a camping stove and solder borrowed from an electrician's kit. The beer can transmission lines actually worked, lasting 3 more days of filming before proper replacement parts arrived. Those beer can repairs appear in several chase scenes, invisible but crucial to completing the shoot. Number 6. The speedometer cable snap. The tiny hidden speedometer's cable snapped during the climactic chase, leaving the driver completely blind to vehicle speed. The aftermarket speedometer used a universal cable that didn't quite fit the Ford's transmission properly. Constant vibration from the rough road and damaged frame eventually snapped the cable at its weakest point. Stunt driver Grant Page was mid-take when the speedometer needle dropped to 0 and stayed there. He had to complete the entire sequence estimating speed by engine sound, an incredibly difficult task while executing precise stunt choreography. The production had no replacement cable available on location. They were 3 hours from the nearest automotive supplier. George Miller made the decision to continue filming without a functioning speedometer for the remaining 2 days. Drivers relied entirely on experience and instinct for speed judgment. This made already dangerous stunts significantly more risky. One driver exceeded safe speed limits during a corner, nearly rolling the car. Another went too slow, ruining a take that required specific velocity for proper camera framing. The missing speedometer forced drivers to develop an almost supernatural feel for the car's performance, reading speed through vibration and sound alone. Number 5. The hood scoop rust disaster. The massive front hood scoop wasn't metal at all. Production designer John Dowding fabricated it from fiberglass in his garage workshop. The scoop cost $87 in materials and took 3 days to mold and shape. It looked aggressive and fed air to absolutely nothing, purely decorative. The problem emerged during coastal filming. Salt air accelerated corrosion on the steel mounting bolts, securing the fiberglass scoop. During a high-speed run, 2 bolts sheared completely. The scoop lifted at highway speed, acting like an airplane wing. It ripped partially free, twisting sideways and blocking the driver's entire forward view. Grant Page couldn't see anything and had to brake blindly, nearly causing a multi-vehicle collision. The loose scoop destroyed itself, tearing into pieces across the highway. Production stopped for 2 days while Dowding fabricated a replacement. The new scoop used stainless steel bolts and additional internal bracing. It survived the remaining filming, but showed visible stress cracks in several scenes. That replacement hood scoop appears throughout the film's second half, slightly different from the original destroyed version. Number 4. The rear differential destruction.
Here, I want to show you how to put the gear oil in your rear end.
The Interceptor's rear differential exploded during filming, scattering gear oil and metal fragments across the highway. The factory differential wasn't designed for the abusive launch techniques required for dramatic acceleration shots. Stunt drivers performed dozens of burnouts and hard launches daily, far exceeding normal operational stress. The ring and pinion gears inside the differential developed stress fractures. During one particularly aggressive launch, the cracked gears shattered completely. The differential case split open, ejecting lubricant and metal shrapnel from underneath the car.
Hey, look at this. We're getting it all set up to fire in the engine compartment.
The rear wheels locked instantly, sending the Interceptor into a violent spin. Grant Page fought to control it, narrowly avoiding a serious crash. Inspection revealed catastrophic internal damage requiring complete differential replacement. The production located a used differential from a wrecking yard 300 kilometers away. Installing it required 2 full days of work. The replacement differential was from a heavy-duty police package Falcon, stronger than the original. It survived the remaining filming, but developed a noticeable whine that sound editors had to remove in post-production. Number 3. The door hinge failure. The driver's door hinges failed during the final week of filming, causing the door to sag and bind. Years of Australian sun had dried out the hinge pin's lubricant. Repeated opening and closing during production wore the pins down to undersized dimensions. The door began hanging lower with each use, eventually scraping the rocker panel when opened. It required 2 people to close it properly, one lifting while another pushed. Mel Gibson struggled during dialogue scenes, requiring him to enter or exit naturally. The binding door ruined several takes as Gibson fought to open or close it smoothly. Mechanics attempted repairing the hinges, but discovered the hinge mounting points on the A-pillar had also elongated from wear. Proper repair required welding new metal into the pillar, work that would take days. The production decided to just deal with the sagging door. Crew members stationed themselves off-camera during every scene, ready to help lift and close the door between takes. Close examination reveals the door sitting noticeably lower in later scenes compared to early filming. Number 2. The radiator boiling point crisis. The Interceptor's cooling system was catastrophically inadequate for Australian outback temperatures combined with aggressive driving. The factory radiator could barely handle normal street driving in Melbourne's temperate climate. Filming in the scorching outback with constant high-speed runs resulted in overheating emergencies multiple times a day. The engine temperature gauge climbed into the red zone within minutes of hard driving. Steam poured from the overflow tank during every action sequence. Production carried 50 liters of water constantly, refilling the cooling system between takes. Mechanics tried everything to improve cooling. They installed a larger aftermarket radiator that barely fit the engine bay. They added an auxiliary electric fan powered by a separate battery. They removed the thermostat entirely, allowing constant coolant circulation. Nothing solved the fundamental problem, asking a street car to perform like a race vehicle in extreme heat. The overheating caused multiple engine problems. Head gaskets blew twice, requiring complete engine rebuilds. Cylinder heads were warped slightly, resulting in a minor compression loss.
And definitely the right choice of leaving it black. I think, yeah.
The engine developed a persistent coolant leak that mechanics were unable to resolve fully. Steam and coolant spray are visible in several wide shots, appearing as white mist trailing the car. Sound editors removed the constant hissing of boiling coolant in post-production. George Miller later admitted the overheating nearly forced them to abandon the entire production. Only the crew's stubborn determination and constant mechanical band-aids kept the Interceptor running long enough to complete filming. The cooling system's inadequacy remains one of production's best-kept secrets, invisible to audiences, but a constant nightmare for everyone involved. Number 1. The hero car's 30-year disappearance. Here's the craziest part of the entire Mad Max story. The original hero car vanished completely after filming wrapped in 1979. Nobody knew what happened to it for over 30 years. The stunt car was documented, eventually restored and displayed in museums. But the hero car that Mel Gibson actually drove simply disappeared from records. Rumors placed it everywhere from American collector garages to Japanese car museums to Australian scrapyards. Car historians searched desperately, checking every lead.
The rig! How is she?
Got a cracked timing case cover and it's broken a couple of...
In 2009, a mechanic in rural Queensland posted online photos of a black Falcon he'd purchased from an estate sale. The car had been stored in a barn for decades, covered in dust and bird droppings. Sharp-eyed Mad Max fans recognized specific details: the dashboard modifications, the unique seat mounting brackets, even paint drips matching production photos. DNA testing of the paint confirmed it matched samples from the film. The mechanic had purchased cinema history for $9,000 without realizing it. He initially planned to restore it as a regular Falcon. Once authenticated, collectors offered over $1 million immediately. The mechanic refused every offer, instead completing a meticulous restoration, preserving every detail exactly as it appeared on screen. The restored hero car debuted at the Melbourne Motor Show in 2012, authenticated by George Miller himself. It now tours internationally, insured for $2.3 million. That 30-year mystery remains unsolved. How did the most famous Australian film car disappear so completely? Who stored it carefully for 3 decades? Why did they never reveal what they owned? The Hero Interceptor survived by hiding in plain sight, just another old Falcon in a rural barn. There you have it. 20 weird facts about Max's V8 Interceptor that even Mad Max fans never knew. Which fact shocked you most? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more movie car secrets. Until next time, keep those engines running, and we'll catch you later.